From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
An exclusive Eyewitness News poll released this week reveals potential problems for the Democrats. It's not easy to be a politician in this economic climate, especially one running for re-election. Just ask Congressman Patrick Kennedy, who was hammered with a 52% unfavorable rating. We're going to talk about Congressman Patrick Kennedy. Of course, a lot of headlines with him as we're in the Scott Brown era and the number 41 era. All right, let's bring that graphic up, Nick, if we could, on Patrick Kennedy. 35% of those polled in District 1 were voting to re-elect, 31% to consider another, 28% vote to replace.
A couple of things to keep in mind. One, in this environment that we're in, people are more likely to look at somebody else for an office before they just say, yes, I'm going to re-elect that person. This is a sign that this could be a very competitive race. If his opponent, Mr. Laughlin, can raise the money and get the issues out and position himself correctly, this could become a competitive race.
Yeah, I wonder how the poll would have been if we used John Laughlin's name in here. Of course, he hadn't announced, and the question is geared overall.
Well, John Laughlin's name's not a household name at this point.
Right.
So I think there would have been a very large spread. What this tells us is the base of support Congressman Kennedy has, and the base of support of people that would vote against him no matter who runs. So I think this question is more revealing than a head-to-head question at this time. 3 or 4 months down the road, the head-to-head question is what you want to look at.
The real wild card in the battle between Kennedy and Laughlin is expected to be independent voters, the largest group of voters in Rhode Island. So how do you expect those two candidates to try and win the vote of independents? And will it be more symbolic issues or real issues?
I think it's going to be a lot of symbolic issues. I think Representative Laughlin is going to try to portray that he could do a better job. He could represent the district. He's not going to have the personal type problems that Congressman Kennedy has had in the past. Congressman Kennedy is going to try to show that he's delivered for the people, he's delivered for the independents. I think this may come down to a lot like Massachusetts in this district, where the cities in the district are fairly heavy Democrat, Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket, Providence, but the towns is where the independent voters are, and that's where Mr. Laughlin will really try to make inroads.
While we're talking about the independent vote, Nick, why don't we bring up that graphic? We have the breakdown on that one as far as Congressman Kennedy did on independents, 26% re-elect, 42% consider another, and a vote to replace at 25%. I mean, those are not great numbers for independents.
No, not at all for Congressman Kennedy, and it also shows that's where the campaign is. It's not with the Democrats, it's not with the Republicans. Congressman Kennedy has to gear to the middle, right to the independent voters. If he portrays himself as too liberal, it's going to hurt him in this race because the independents are probably more moderate type voters in the state of Rhode Island.
As you know, Mr. Laughlin, when he announced, indicated that he was pro-life. He's anti the government plan relative to health care, and he thinks there should be military trials rather than civilian trials. How does that play with the independent vote, do you think?
Well, I think he has to also be careful that he doesn't go too far to the right with the conservative part of the Republican Party. Mr. Laughlin is viewed, I think, by a lot of insiders in the state as more of a moderate conservative. And if he keeps that image out there, that's going to help him in this district. If he goes too far to the right, it's going to hurt him. So I think he's going to try to play that middle road all the way down, as Scott Brown did.
You know, it was interesting, though. He brought up national security as one of the biggest things. But when I heard him say that, I was looking at our poll, and that is the caboose.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's not the issue to be talking about right now.
Of course, that could change.
Yes, that issue could change if something happens in the country with a terrorist attack. But right now, Mr. Laughlin needs to talk about jobs and economy. And I think you're going to see Representative Kennedy talk about jobs and economy from now to November.
I want to move on, but Ian, I have a question for you. You covered John Laughlin's announcement on Thursday. We tape on a Friday. You know, obviously, he's fond of pointing out, like Scott Brown, he drives around a pickup truck with 200,000 plus miles. To my knowledge, he did not pose naked in Cosmo. Can he be Scott Brown?
John is a smart guy, and he has the potential to be a good candidate. I think his reference to national security issues was an effort to point up the fact that he is a veteran, and that's a way to draw a distinction between himself and Patrick Kennedy, who did not serve in the military. I think there are a lot of questions, more so than answers at this point, but as Joe said, I think it could be, it has the potential to be a competitive campaign. Laughlin's good on his feet, and he'll be a good candidate.
Let's dive into
could be independent voters in a good turnout of a Democratic primary.
That's all the time we have for Newsmakers this week. Look, we have all the crosstabs for you political nerds out there. No offense, Ian Donis. We have all the crosstabs on WPRI.com so you can get your fingers dirty on these numbers. We thank you for watching. For Ian Donis, Arlene Violet, I'm Tim White. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.